Bore da, croeso, and welcome to the first of many Motivate Me's. And now, as you know, I was a personal trainer for a very, very long time. I don't do personal training anymore, for many reasons. But Motivate Me's come from the fact that I really appreciate and understand that you really want to do exercise and you really want to get fit and you really want to make these changes, but it's difficult to sustain that motivation to change because lifestyle change is, is quite long term and you have to kind of make that change every single day in a very small way. So I find that when I read something that's of great interest to me, it makes me consider things. So don't really look too much on the influencers on social media or, listen to my friends about what they do. I listen, but I kind of go, what's the science? And I tend to use Google Scholar and have a look at some of the research papers that are around the world about things that change or motivate us. So today's Motivate Me is all about stress. And we're going to have a look at why should we be concerned about stress and what we can do about it. So this is your 15-minute talk on a Saturday morning to make you think about how can I balance my life out when I have a stressful situation. So we all face periods of stress in our life, okay? There's no way that we can go through life without having a stressful time. What your body does is it reacts to your emotional feelings of stress or your triggers, okay? So it tends to be a hormonal response and it's not just a girl thing, okay? So the guys get this as well. And, sometimes with men, they can't talk about it in the same way because our society doesn't enable men to talk freely about feelings. And the reason that we need to talk about them is that we need to acknowledge them and appreciate the influence it has on our health. Excuse my croaky voice. We know from research, that's going to make it worse. We know from research, give me 1 second, that if we don't learn to manage stress, it accelerates the aging process. So you become old before your time. We know it has direct influence on what's called your metabolic profile, okay, the way that you burn fat, the way that you store insulin. And we also know it has an altering effect on our immune system. Now, the immune system is key to us being healthy. So if we think like, hang on, these are really serious things here now. Accelerates aging, changes our metabolic profile and influences adversely our immune system. And there are ways that we can deal with it. So some of the changes that you might see when you are under periods of stress, whether you are acknowledging it or not, is that A, you find it very difficult to lose weight. You tend to find that you store more intra-abdominal fat rather than put it on all over. There are other hormonal influences on that, especially if you're in your 50s. But a lot of the time, being stressed causes this intra-abdominal fat to increase. That puts a lot of pressure on your heart. That changes the lipid profile. So lipids are fats into your arteries. So the changes in metabolism come around this hormonal response. It's quite complex, but just think about, you probably will burn less fat when you're exercising if you are feeling stressed than if you were doing the same level of exercise without feeling stressed. If you're serious about looking after your heart and keeping a healthy heart, dealing with stress is the first key thing that happens. This furring up and hardening of the arteries can cause all kinds of issues in terms of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and can cause a heart attack or stroke. So how does stress influence us in this way? And it's what's called the endocrine system. So it's this hormonal response that triggers a series of hormonal responses that we don't want. It's like the high alert. So when we go back and we look at the brain, it's the amygdala part of the brain, which is deep into the core of the brain, that triggers what's called that fight or flight response. It regulates our emotion. It attaches emotions to situations. So for example, if you're stressed in work, just thinking about work without being there will cause a stress reaction. Okay? If I think about cows, I get a bit stressed. I don't mean to be jokey about it, but think about something that frightens you, and just thinking about it, you have that reaction, immediately. What we try and do in the cafe is we kind of look at what kind of lifestyle changes can I make to offset the stress reactions. Okay, so the one thing that's really challenging is for somebody to say, look, don't worry about it. Don't get stressed about it. Because that doesn't work. So you kind of have to force yourself, okay, in a very strict kind of way, to follow the science around how do we reduce this emotional, hormonal, endocrine system response. Number one, being outside and being in sunlight has a significant impact on lowering the stress hormones. It's free. You don't have to be in a good mood. You don't have to wear sports kit, but you do have to get outside. Some of the key things with getting outside is 10 minutes in the morning sunlight, okay? First time as it's coming up. It doesn't have to be dawn, but it needs to be before 10 o'clock. You go outside and you expose your retina, okay? So you don't wear your sunglasses to sunlight. Doesn't mean you have to look at the sun, but you need that change in light. So if you keep it dim with your sunglasses on, you don't get the same benefits. Now later on in the day when the sun is strong, of course you want to protect your retina from sun damage. Okay, so you don't want to be doing that later in the day. Or you can do it in the evening, all right? So it depends on the time of year. But again, it is exposing the eyeball or the retina through the cornea to sunlight. Now, if you are feeling unwell and you can't do any exercise, you can do this sitting down in a chair. You can even have a glass of wine if you want. Not that that's going to help your stress, but that kind of thing makes a big difference. The second thing is that, again, to do with your eyes, is the moving element of the world. So when we tap into distracting the mind to reduce that hormonal response, remember you can think about something and get the hormonal response. You want to distract your brain by looking at things. So we have a part of the brain here, okay, which is a very calm part, and I'm sure I've told you this before. They can actually operate on this part of your brain, the limbic system, okay, where you can't feel it. So a 30 centimetre gap is roughly where you access this part of the brain, and that's what you do when you meditate. You kind of look at that 30 centimetre distance, or it's more than 30, it's your arm length distance, but that's usually where you're holding your phone. So what you want to do is to, when you're outside, is not to look at the things close to you, but to extend your gaze to the furthest point. You'll notice we even do this when we're doing relaxation, about imagining looking to the furthest point. So if you're in a city or a town where the buildings are close to you all the time, that's when we think stress and anxiety increases. Then we can move, okay? So you can walk, but when you're walking, don't go on your phone. Walk and look ahead, look at the sun, look at the trees, look at the sea, look at whatever you're looking at in the distance. Don't look down at your feet. There's some really lovely research about how looking down makes you feel down and looking up makes you feel happier. So when you're doing your exercise, always try and look up, maybe look at birds in the sky, maybe looking at clouds. Lift your head. Do the breathing that we do in Pilates, because this is called 4 square breathing, all right? So it's breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. You can think of it like a square, whatever works for you, but the holding of your breath in your body part is as important as the breathing in and breathing out. 5 cycles of this has a direct influence on brain activity and calms down your stress response. How many times have you said to somebody who's stressed, calm down, take a deep breath? It is in our bodies to calm that response, and that's what we're doing. The next step is to look at diet. So we know, and if you're doing cafe next time, we're back onto gut health. We know in gut health that the microbiomes in your gut directly communicate with your brain in terms of gut health and brain response. That kind of interaction looks at the way that we manage our hormones. When we are stressed, the gut reacts. How many times when you're stressed you get stomachache, you get the runs, you're constipated, you know, all of those things, they're there because of this endocrine response. So feed your gut with food that is going to counteract the stress. All right, so no magic here, okay? So we're looking at probiotics, prebiotics, and any kind of food that is going to keep your gut healthy. So the microbiome feeds off fibre. So you want to think about things that include fibre. So fresh fruit and vegetables, oats, beans, anything, legumes, anything that is fibrous, we're going to eat that. But also we need to increase the amount of healthy gut bacteria we have by eating it. All right, so we're going back to the kefir, the kimchi, the yogurts, the sour food, the sauerkraut, anything that you can increase. So you're actually eating gut microbiome, okay? You're eating it physically. And then the final thing is to learn to relax your body physically in order to let your brain recover. Your brain has periods of activity, and then at night, okay, it goes through a period of recalibrating and sorting everything out whilst you're sleeping. This happens mainly when you're in your deep sleep cycle, and you need around 2 hours of that a day to keep your brain healthy. Reduce your light at night, stop going on your phone, don't eat too close to bedtime, do your relaxation. Those things trigger your body to sleep, okay? So melatonin is biological night. We want to increase melatonin. So melatonin is included in food which include the word tryptophan. So things like meat, eggs, fish, that kind of thing. So healthy food again, looking at the way you can increase your melatonin in your system so that you sleep a minimum of 7 hours. And if you're not getting to 7 hours, I appreciate that. That's not easy for everybody. But more importantly, that during that time, you have that deep sleep cycle. If you're really interested in this, I suggest you get yourself some kind of biometric watch that measures your sleep cycle at night, just to kind of see where you're at. Don't get fixated on it because that increases your stress. And then look at ways. And I think all of these things are good things to do on the weekend. You can have a lie-in on a Sunday morning, you can have healthy food, you can go for your walks, you can do things that when you're in a busy working day life that sometimes you can't fit these in. So use this weekend to think about, how can I best help my body by listening to the science of reducing the hormonal response to stress? Because I don't want to age any quicker. I don't want to change my metabolic profile, and I want to boost my immune system. These are great things for you to think about. It's nothing to do with how big your waist is. It's not a before and after photo. That's not what the cafe is about. Cafe is about you, looking after you, your life, your health. And ultimately, if you're less stressed, you're going to be a little bit happier. Okay, have a lovely day, and see you all on Monday for a little bit more of a hard work hit and intense Pilates. Take care. Hwyl fawr pawb.